on the 10-year anniversary of the worst day of my life, I was at this event in Arizona called Golf Camp. And I was talking to this guy who had a vintage shop there. I immediately saw this bag that he had. It was like a seafoam green bag, and on the pocket it was a Pinghoofer. It said Phoenix Christian. And, for me, that meant a lot. It's like, I rose from the ashes in the last 10 years, and like it spoke to me. And then I also bought this Titleist hat from him. And then afterwards, I found out that he's like a Christian, because I am too. And I look at the back of the hat, I didn't even realize it, but there's embroidered in the back of it, said, "What is next?" Here I am. It was like almost like I was like supposed to find that there. And even that night before I left, I was like messaging Eric Lang, and all these different things were happening. It's like, I just can't believe how far we've come. But like I said, just maintain the passion and the consistency, and it seems like anything is really possible.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary, a part of the Strictly From Nowhere podcast experiment. I'm your host, Justin Abrams, a serial entrepreneur in pursuit of wisdom with the goal of sharing it with all of you. And it's no different for today. I have to tip my hat to one of the things I kind of talk about occasionally, but man, it's the game of golf. And if you're out there and that's your game and that's your jam, that's how you spend your nights and weekends, it's what you kind of manifest and dream about, well, we're just, kindred spirits. And I like to talk about the game of golf often, but we really don't talk about the journey of golf. And so let me give you a little bit of a story before we get into our guest for today. On the 7th hole of the yellow course of Bethpage, there's a bench. The bench belongs to my grandfather. It's a testament to the game. It's a quote on there. "The walk was never spoiled by the little white ball." And I think the way that you think about golf is one of two ways. It's either a game that you stress about, or it's a game that you find relief. And so I come from the relief category. It's something that I turn to on the hard days, on the days that you want to celebrate, on the days that you want to go out with friends and find some space to think about new creations and resolve some issues. And the game of golf is really just 4 to 5 hours of me time, of you time, of us time. And so when I really think about the game, some of my greatest friendships have come from the game. Some of my greatest business opportunities and network opportunities and all sorts of ways of expanding my consciousness and my network all come from the game of golf. And so when my very dear friend, Rob Stouffer, told me that he was working on a new endeavor with some dude that he met in Italy on a random day, just walking up to the course as a single, and got paired with the legend, well, that's the origin story of how I know Lyle. So, Lyle, welcome to this episode of Forward to Extraordinary. It is a pleasure to host you, and I cannot wait to unpack your zero to market story. Welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's been a journey getting up to this point now. We're getting close to 1 year since I started field golf. So it was really around mid-July, early August of 2025. So
wow, man. It's wild. And I don't even think when you met Rob, I'm not even sure that this was like on your radar. I think you were on Walkabout.
When I met Rob, the only reason why I was there, so essentially last August I was turning 30, and my previous business was going through some changes. It was the largest project of my life that I worked for 2 years to get from start to finish. Well, at least start to construction. And then I received the payment, and then I just kind of stopped working one day, and then decided I need something else in my life to push me outside of just what I was doing on like the regular day with my business. So I decided I wanted to compete again as a mid-am. So I entered a tournament early August. So it was like maybe like a Wednesday for a Saturday event. And then that Friday, I decided, dude, I'm turning 30 at the end of this month. I want to go do something really cool. I had nowhere to be. You know what I mean? I had some runway, and I was like, I don't really want to do anything else except just go on an adventure. And so that's exactly what I did. I played that golf tournament on Saturday. I booked the flight on Friday. I won the tournament. And then I flew to Italy that Monday to start a 3-week trip without an itinerary.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a rad story, dude. What a rad story. Well, we got to get into it. I want to know a little bit about the backstory of Lyle. So I always begin these episodes. I want to learn a little bit about you, your human experience, and what makes you unique before we get into business.
So I think, unfortunately, I have a unique perspective on the world because of a lot of mistakes that I made early on in life. Turned 21 in a prison cell. Yeah, I've been arrested a lot as 19, 20. Went through a little bit of a bad stretch, had some bad friends, was using drugs and alcohol as a way to cope and to heal and to escape, just ruining my potential, and wound up in prison, which is exactly where I belonged. And so that was really ultimately the best thing that's ever happened to me. When I went to prison, it was a really interesting set of circumstances, but I found myself in there. I got stronger spiritually, physically. I had an incredible sponsor working with me that kept me focused, talked to me like every day, would come up and see me. We would make plans about the future. And while I was there, I was tutoring in the school, and I played guitar in the church band, and I was winning all these poetry competitions, and I was just trying to be constructive. And honestly, like when I look back, it was probably like it was one of the strongest periods of my life when I think about like the discipline and like the mindset that I had. I get comfortable now and I forget sometimes like how terrible life used to be. And I'm constantly giving myself perspective, but to make a long story short, I ended up making parole because I was like a model inmate, and it was a nonviolent crime. So I wasn't like I had any victims in the world. So I was able to get back out and then started working like 80 hours a week, flipping pancakes in the morning and then waiting tables at night. And I was able to get some money together to enroll back into college in January of 2018. So I made parole in May of 2017. That was the month I should have been graduating college. So that wasn't cool. You know what I mean? But life isn't linear. So when I got out, I got back into school and I started really hustling. I found this new gear inside of myself and got back into school. And then, got involved in some programs at school that got me into my career. And ever since then, I've just been, working really hard to separate myself from the past and the mistakes that I made. But I'm also not qualified to be, I couldn't even be a DoorDash driver if I wanted to. So I've always had to go out and make my own way and figure out ways that I can get creative to make an income. And that's definitely been a strong suit of mine.
The entrepreneurial spirit is often a topic that I talk about here, and being a self-starter, trying to find your way when it's a little bit unclear. It sounds like that's a lot of your story. And while we lose ourselves along the way, I have my own formidable my formidable years were not so enlightened, if you know what I mean. And something happens along the way, like some type of a spark, some type of like an ultimatum. Something happens, either tragically or like super emotionally. You come to these crossroads in life, and do you ever sit and wonder like what would have happened if you stayed on the left side rather than taking the right side?
Well, I'd be dead.
It's a
That's
harsh
easy.
reality.
Yeah,
It's the
no, absolutely. I mean,
pain, bro.
and I'm not immune from it at all, even still. I mean, over the last 10 years, I haven't been perfect, dude. I mean, I've relapsed 100 times. You know what I mean? I'm sober now. You know what I mean? And I'm sober from the things that I need to be sober from, which is what I'm working towards, right? But what I've found is that for me, being sober and clear, and I have a little bit of mania, and I'm extremely obsessed about things when I decide I'm going to do them. But it has been a superpower for me to transition out of my last business and then get into golf, which is it's actually one of my old customers. Before I did this, I was essentially working as a consultant. I set up a consulting company, and if I'm going all the way back to my history of my career, I got involved in solar in college through a program that gave me on the job training. And I had a professor that led the class named Dr. Martin, and she was incredibly inspirational, and motivated me that this is something that I could do and I could work in. Essentially, it was a trade. So we got technical training on how to install solar, understanding electricity and like renewable energy as a whole, batteries. And I was fascinated by it. Like renewable energy was just
Right
It's
time.
really
Yeah.
interesting. It's a really interesting concept that we could pull energy out of the sky and power things with it. And in a lot of ways too, I also had, these really positive feelings associated with being renewed, because in a lot of ways I'm like working with renewable energy on like essentially my second chance at life. And so I thought that was interesting, and I got really passionate about it. And, early on I knew that this was something I had some runway with. There was incentives. There's a lot of tailwinds for solar at this point in time. So when I graduated, I had a job lined up working with a battery company, and it was a startup. It was essentially a solar generator. It could drive itself. You could have power anywhere you wanted to go. I built a trailer and then put solar panels on the top of it and batteries on the inside of it. And we would drive around to events and provide power. And, it was a way that we were trying to show like essentially a way that we could be prepared for like disasters and not have to use fuel. And the machine itself was problematic, and the guy that was running the company was also problematic. So that was like my first experience really in entrepreneurship. I was setting up dealership networks across the country and running Facebook marketing ads and reaching out to people and closing these units over the phone. And this was really pre-Zoom. So these are all phone calls, which is funny. But I got into the sales grind. I was kind of doing a little bit of everything, marketing, sales. And I realized like, this is where I'm at. I'm a talker. Nobody's asking to see my degree. I graduated school with a history degree, so I don't have any sort of formal business training. And then from there, I left that company. I got involved in direct, like in-home sales of solar, and started doing really well with that. And then became a manager in that company and got moved around a few times. And I was building sales teams and just having a lot of fun. Was also like very successful right out of the gate. Like literally 2017, get out of prison. In 2019, I come out of college, I was making six figures.
Amazing.
And unfortunately, the world that we live in, it's like money is not the answer, but it is a resource,
Mm-hmm.
and it can unlock like different levels of life. So it gave me the ability to like get some freedom and get out of my parents' house and start doing more activities. I was like hiking, mountain biking a lot. I was spending money on myself and really just investing in my health and my happiness. And it was around the same time that I got the golf bug again. You know what I mean? While I was in school, I couldn't really play. I was maybe playing like 30 times a year. Been playing golf my entire life, but I wasn't really like obsessed with it. And I was doing a lot of other things like mountain biking and hiking and ski trips. And I was a little bit more like extreme and definitely a little bit more granola. um, and then from there, I started my own company. I worked through a few different installers, and everyone was just not it. And then eventually wanted to get out of doing residential and started my own commercial operation. So that was a really fun time. It was painful learning this business because I got into commercial without knowing anything what I was doing. But my goal was to simplify the process, right? Trying to get commercial solar installed was very hard. It still is very hard. And at the time, there's also USDA grants that were available. So I taught myself how to capture USDA money to pay for these energy efficiency and solar projects. And I was literally built it off my cell phone and my laptop website. And then we would go out and I would just pop into farms and businesses all day long and ask them if they knew about these programs.
Hmm.
While I was in solar, I had like a stint where one of the companies we did door to door. So I was just knocking on doors, talking to people all day. And it's crazy how much money you could make doing door to door sales, dude. I mean, it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's people in that company that make $1 million in the summer. It's insane. It's insane.
I believe it.
And so that's why, America is a land of opportunity if you're willing to work. You know what I mean?
Isn't it the truth, man? Like on the worst day, if you're not sure where it comes from, literally leave your house because you just increased your surface area for luck, as I always like to say. I mean, your story is kind of how I started too. I met my wife, my now wife, on the very first day where I was getting trained on a door-to-door solicitation job. Like the bare bones of sales, like literally door knocking, wearing a suit on the hottest summer day and going door to door in Long Island industrial centers. And my wife was my sales trainer, and who knew that it would end up here. But yeah, man, like I often give the advice to young people and they don't know what to do with their time. They're struggling to find a job. It's no secret that the job market is really troublesome right now. Even if you go to school to acquire some significant technical skill, like for me, I run an agency, we have an engineering team. Like these are developers that have spent the last 10, 15, 20 years trying to hone this skill. And then you have kids coming out of college, and there's just no comparison. Like there's just no. So what are they supposed to do? I often say, when in doubt, go try and sell something. Like even go door to door with your resume and try to get a job. Like what you can accomplish by just flexing the sales muscle and trying to learn a couple things, man, that can change your life. What feels like overnight. Might take a couple repetitions though.
Quickly. I mean, literally, you could go out and sell HVAC or anything in home and do extremely well immediately. You could start generating like good commissions. Um, People definitely don't understand how much potential, but obviously you have to bet on yourself there.
Isn't it the truth, man? And so I want to really know a little bit about your journey for now. So I'd love the backstory. I think it's a kind of a logical thing. It feels like you were maybe like uninspired or a little burnt out with the solar business, like one day to just like stop in business. Like that's a wild story. So
Yeah.
tell me about the transition. And then also what I really want to know is I want to kind of get us up to date because I think you're running two things in parallel. One is like a mass content play. One is like a new full on brand. And so golf with strangers for me out of your van is just like an insane concept, bro. I love that
It,
concept. And then
there,
the feel good
yeah.
merch brand is like it's so wild. So like we got
Yeah.
a whole story arc we got to cover here.
There's a lot, and it's so funny, but I mean, I think ultimately what it comes down to is I've always been creative. I've always had these grand ideas. I've always had things I wanted to execute on. And even when I was a kid and I was like a hippie and I was going to jam band shows, I was telling my family, I'm going to sell t-shirts one day, like tie-dyes. And they're like, whatever. I was always the black sheep. Um, so right around this time last year, my solar business started falling apart. I had a business partner that wasn't supporting me. I was going out, I was selling, doing essentially managing all aspects of the business. And he was my best friend of 5 years. We got into business, and it still bothers me today that we broke up the way that we did. But I mean, we only, the market conditions got harder once Trump got into office and things started getting a lot tighter from, so getting newer deals was tough. And so we were relying on old deals that were in the pipeline. It's like, dude, I'm pushing this all the way and you're not helping. Like how, when it comes to like who makes what, it's always a difficult conversation. So we ended the partnership amicable, we moved on, but then, I was living in Tennessee this time last year. And then essentially I moved to Charlotte because I thought I was going to maybe work in commercial roofing. I had an opportunity there, and I still was unsure of my one big project in Florida. It was like a $2.5 million solar project for a tomato producer was going to go through or not. There's just a lot of issues. That was a life-changing deal that eventually in around July actually ended up going through. And so I was working with this roofing company for 2 weeks and I was miserable. It's like, what am I doing? And around that same time, like early July, I had the idea that I was like going to start a golf page because, I've been playing more and more golf, and getting better at it. And all my friends tell me I should try it out. And, deep down inside, it's something I've always wanted to do because I've seen other people that do it. I know that I could do it just as well if they can, if not better, because, there's just more layers to me, I guess. I'm three-dimensional. And so I don't really know where the name came from, but Field Golf just kind of spawned one day in July of last year. And then from there, it just bought a tripod and I started filming my golf swing and, went to Europe for 3 weeks and started playing incredible golf while adventuring. I started in Rome. That's where I met Rob. We had an incredible day. I had maybe 40 something followers when we first met. And then from there, I went to Florence and had some of the best food of my life. And I played an awesome Arnold Palmer course and went up to Venice to grab an RV. And then I drove in the Dolomites and played some more golf and camped and was like, dude, this is insane. This is like what I want to do. And then I went back to Venice to then go play golf in Venice. You took a boat all the way to this island at the very end of it and played there and then came back. Then I flew to Bulgaria. And the only place I ever missed a flight in my life was in Bulgaria. I was there for a day and then a flight the next morning to go to Varna, which is on the coast of the Black Sea. There's like this incredible Gary Player course. It's the Pebble Beach of Europe. So I missed the flight because the airport was so unorganized. I ended up renting a car and driving like 5.5 hours to get to the resort that day. And I was like, this is like the most fun thing I've ever done in my life. I was like, this is living. And at the same time, I'm also here on the fruits of my labor from my previous company. And so, did that trip. Then I went to Slovenia. And then I went back into Rome and played some more golf. I flew into Rome 3 times in 17 days, which is hilarious. My sister makes fun of me for that. But, we're just living life and just trying to have the best time. And that was how I was closing out my 20s, dude. And when I got back, this like roofing company was like, "So are you like going to work with us still?" And then I went to work for like literally a morning meeting and then I quit. I was like, I can't do this. I was like,
Oh,
this
dude,
is
I love that.
literally, I'm gonna pull my hair out. And then I just like, dude, I started playing golf like almost every other day and just kept it up. My goal was to hit 100 rounds in a year last year. And that was like early season. And then that was essentially the goal. And then I finished with like 113 and started posting reels. And then I got, I've been working on hats for my other company for a few years, and the hat business is really tough because a lot of hats suck. But I found a manufacturer that I really liked. We started sampling stuff and I knew I wanted to make apparel. I was like, got to do something. And so then we started making hats, and then the hats came, the hats ripped. People love them, right? They're insanely good quality. So all of a sudden now it's all these things are kind of coming around, and we went from, essentially zero last July to like 24,000 followers now. But as of late, I haven't really been trying to like grow the page like I did in the past. It's a little bit, everything that I put out is like very like curated, and I am doing it because I personally like the posts, but also I'm posting things to remind myself of like the journey. So it's not like clickbait, follow me type stuff. But the business of field golf evolving is really interesting. And yeah, we have a few different things. Essentially, when I explain this to Rob, it's like a spider web of what this is going to become. But there's really there's two entities here now. So we have Field Golf, and then we have the Certified Golf Corporation, or Certified G, which is the media arm. I've never watched YouTube golf, but I've always been inspired by like Eric Lang and Anthony Bourdain and traveling and seeing the world and adventure. Nobody except for Eric really does that. I knew that this was something that I wanted to do. And then, Golf with a Stranger turned into Golf Trip with a Stranger. Then we shot an episode in Guatemala, working with some film school guys. And, now we're really working to become a storytelling outlet in golf, and then using merchandise to fund that. And there's all these different layers to it, but it's a really exciting time because not only are we making tangible products, but we're also making digital products.
It's just so wild how like time is working in kind of your favor. Like talk about like the creator golf league that's happening, like creator championship. Like this it's wild that like the new version of the professional golfer is not necessarily on the PGA tour. It's like it is the brands looking for ambassadors and looking for that influencer style. And like most of these guys, you're either really bad and that's part of your shtick, or you're really fucking good. And
Yeah.
so I'm like definitely a consumer of that. I'm definitely part of like that old school, is raised by like my grandfather and my dad and that generation of golf. And like I'm still definitely a purist, but like it's so refreshing to see that the game has been like revitalized with like this new like legendary pack of random kids that have just pursued the game, and they saw the cash grab. They saw like the influential opportunity that comes out of it. And so I'm curious for you, like, I don't know if you did this intentionally. I think you just did this because like, if we're going to be out here living, we might as well do it on our terms. But I think you're also starting to really embrace like there's a full-on business here, and there's a viable business, there's a sellable business, like there's a whole equation here that you guys are creating. And I'm fascinated with the content play because you went a super premium route. Tons of creators out here that are going just like mass content, hyper distribution, and like you went for more of a curated route. You went more for like, I'm about to like fall in love with this dude randomly that I met on the golf course 24 hours ago, or online 24 hours ago. And now we're about to tee off. And like, it's totally unique. And so like, where did that come from? Where did like the discipline to not just like spray and pray? I do a lot of that. Like I make such a huge amount of volume content. I record this show daily across 5 different shows. Like you can imagine the amount of mass distribution that I'm doing. The the discipline and like the control that it takes to produce like one super high quality piece versus like mass mediocrity, that's like really hard. So there's a formula there. And I'm like interested in unpacking that because there's tons of people here that are listening to your story and they're like, fuck, I just want to own my hobby. I want to make my passions my lifestyle. I want to figure out how to be like UGC creator or like do some way to monetize my life on the back of the things that I really like to do. And
Yeah.
so I'd love to get deeper into like your formula and how you're structuring this and then how you're using your human resources, folks like Rob and the guys that you're building a business with that kind of help you just like see the bigger picture rather than just like me, I'll just be like rabbit. I'll be like, yo, I just need more, 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 more.
Well,
I know.
that's how I am.
Right, right, right.
I don't have a plan. I've never had a plan. I never really had any sort of intention for what this was supposed to be. Really, it was just a way to be accountable to myself. That's how it all started. I wanted to compete as a mid-am, and then that has kind of morphed into now like highlighting things that are way more important than me playing in golf tournaments, like mental health and addiction and the things that like I would say like, dude, most golf creators are not, we don't know anything about them. We just know that they're goofy and they play golf.
That's right.
I've lived a very interesting life. I've been in prison, but I've closed 7-figure deals. I've been to 30 countries and I've lost time in my life. And so I've always tried to go out of my way to be as well-rounded as I possibly can. And unfortunately, I'm just turned out to be interesting, mysterious at 30. I don't know, but I've always just tried to capture experiences, and I've been shaped by all like the traveling and the prison and the business and even the history and finding narratives. I mean, I've literally been classically trained through, I feel like Slumdog Millionaire, dude, like through everything that's happened to me in my life. And now it's, in the last year, dude, I haven't played golf with the guy from Rufus, and I'm having brunch with Eric Lang, and I'm like, really, I met Chad Mum from Netflix and pitched him on the sea. I mean, dude, I'm getting in these conversations with like very like high level people already in golf. Like I've already essentially penetrated like the top layer. And also too, when it comes to like the club invites and everything else, I mean, dude, I could play golf. I'm going to be playing golf all over the world this year. And I just put myself out there and I got vulnerable. But for me, that keeps me like where I need to be, which is sober and playing golf and like being creative. But like this is essentially just as a culmination of all my skills. And so what started out as me like trying to find my own voice in social media, and then I found it, and then I really kind of got my signature by accident with Golf with a Stranger, and then that kind of turned into something, and then I started getting a little bit more vulnerable once I had like more followers about my past and the things that I've been through, and that also increased it. And so I've built a lot of engagement in my page. I would say I would challenge anybody to go look at like a big creator's posts. And if you look at the reviews and comments and engagement, I think pound for pound, I have some of the highest engagement on the internet in the golf space. People are so supportive of me, dude. And like, it blows my mind. You know what I mean? Cause honestly, like I need it. Cause like I
Yeah.
struggle, dude. Every single day I'm alive. It is a struggle to stay sober. Like I still have thoughts, you know what I mean? Like, would I love to just go to happy hour and just get hammered? Yeah, dude, I would. I would love it. But like, I can't do it anymore. And so when I put myself out there, it's like I'm forcing myself to grow. And that's kind of that was maybe my main intention of doing field golf, because I knew that I had more in the tank outside of business. I knew that I had a creative lens that I look at through life. And I also have a very unique experience. So I have all this like business hippie, like gritty granola, also a great golfer type vibe. So I'm hitting a lot of different things, and I'm also incorporating all these things that I really like into my content universe with like, doing stuff outdoors, like in the series. The first scene, I'm wearing freaking hiking boots and vintage t-shirts, and it's like being myself, you know what I mean? And creating my own ecosystem. And really it's like my own version of golf, and I'm excited, dude. It's been such an honor to get to do all of this, but I have so many ideas.
Well, dude, it's contagious. Like we see ourselves in you and we see ourselves in those that you choose to play around with. And it's like so tangible. It's so like you could pick me tomorrow and like you could end up
Yeah.
here on Long Island. We could be shredding something like let's go play Shinnecock or something. Like it's just so
Can you get out
possible.
at Shinnecock?
I don't know, but we could try. You probably can. I don't think I could. You
I think
probably
I
can.
can get out at Shinnecock, dude.
Let's do it, man. Before the US
Yeah.
Open goes, so we can get on that green, you know what I'm saying? That'd be a nice
Yeah.
round. But what I think is really special about what you're trying to create is it leads me into my next question, which is like, bro, you're 30. Like, we're at the start. I literally created the show Forward to Extraordinary because it's a battle cry. It's like, think about, manifest, call the shot, make the moves, like literally forward to what your version of extraordinary is, because today is the version you'll look back at in 5, 10, 25 years, like, and you'll be like, what the fuck? Like, how did I get from there to here? You already are questioning, like, how did I get from a prison cell to where I'm at right now? Like, the
Yeah.
story of Forward to Extraordinary kind of relates really, really nicely to the game of golf. You start out with a little bit of hype. If you play really nicely on the first hole, you know you're going downhill for the next 17. You know, that's my jam. You know, if I birdie the first hole, we're fucked. So to me, it's just like this battle cry of like, what is possible? And so what is on the docket, man? Like, I know you got a lot of ideas, but like, what does this ideally look like? Because to me, I feel like you're creating something for us.
It
Like, you
is.
made something for me, bro. And like,
Yeah.
I know you're coming out with a whole bunch of stuff. You plug it if you want to, but like, it's for me. It's for me to feel capable, for me to feel powerful. Like, it's only a little bit about the game of golf. It's really about the relationships that you're building and what is
Yeah.
possible. And so, what do you see as coming for you?
So the series Golf Trip with a Stranger, I think it's going to be like, it's a really incredible project, because what we're doing is we're exploring all these different aspects and emotions in life through golf. So the first episode we shot in Guatemala, which was our pilot. So after my first drop, we sold 200 hats, 87 t-shirts, and 24 hoodies. And I just took that money and I rinsed it right back into creating something that's higher level. Like I don't have the following. I have 100 subscribers on YouTube, but I just wanted to go out, and I knew that if I made something, I could get it sponsored, find a host, do something like leave my actual mark on golf, not like a stupid reel. So we went to Guatemala, and I don't want to give out all the details, but it's a really significant place for me. I went there in 2018 with my mom, and it was the beginning of me rebuilding my life, but also rebuilding a relationship with her. And then going to Guatemala, I used to like dream at night of traveling and like reading National Geographic when I was in the can. And when I was there and I did all these really awesome things, I told myself, it's like, dude, go out and you can still see the world. Like, your passport works. You can still have a passport, and I didn't feel as limited. And then I got the travel bug and, started doing that. But so essentially the series, we're kind of retracing like my journey. And I feel like a good starting point would be in Guatemala. So I brought the first stranger or first person to ever asked me to do a DM after my first like viral video went off in September of last year. Just happened to become friends with this guy like over phone call, and you know, brought him down. He actually lives in the Hudson Valley. So it was really great time. And, golf is just a part of it, but we did a lot more than golf. You know what I mean? We got a little bit deeper into my story, into his story, and, him and I bonded, and, it was just a really cool thing to do. And now we're actually less than 2 weeks away from shooting our next episode. So this episode's Golf is Healing. I'm bringing a follower down from New Jersey and his 5-year-old son. And it's a little bit of a heavier episode. He lost his wife last August to cancer. So I'm working with Play Golf Myrtle Beach to curate an awesome 3-day experience for him and his son. And so they provided tee times and accommodations, and I'm just putting everything else together. Have a really awesome itinerary. This guy has no idea what we're doing, but we're playing some really cool golf. I've got some awesome gifts for him. It's going to be like a very like memorable experience, and that's the point, right? And then I'm also, as of last week, I lost someone really close to me as well, so I didn't really expect that to
Sorry, bro.
be a part of it. Dude, it's life, dude, but I gotta just keep on playing golf. I mean, that's my therapy, and now I'm even more honored to be able to tell this story, because we're going to do this in this episode in memory of Eric's wife, as well as my buddy Johnny. And it's like, dude, what an honor to be able to tell stories at a high level and use golf to explore these emotions that nobody's really doing that, and even Adventures in Golf with Eric Lang, it's very much like going out and seeing the world like through the lens of golf, but we're not really like, it's not a fresh audience every single episode. You may be a fresh place, but I'm trying to get a little bit more raw and emotional feel, I guess. Wasn't intentional, but that's just how I am. So I'm just trying to take my perspective and my silver linings and then portray that through these little mini films, dude, because that's what they are. I mean, this isn't videographer stuff. I mean, these are guys who went to film school. We're using really good equipment, and we have a shot list, and like it's authentic in the way that it's being shot, but the production itself is for lack of a better term, it's cinematic. It's just as good as anything that's currently out there in the golf world. I'm a huge fan of Full Swing, but I will say this, that especially with everything that's going on today in the world, dude, gas is like $4 in South Carolina right now. It was like $2, right? People are going through stuff. So it's difficult to listen to a professional golfer mope about how they're not making millions of dollars and not winning tournaments. Like, do I have so much respect and admiration for them in the game? Yes. Is that slightly out of touch in our society as of right now, April 29th, 2026? Yes, dude. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so I'm trying to create stuff that's more emotionally charged, that, we're selling these hats to fund these media projects because I want people to partake in this, right? It's a free thing for them to watch. And then, they get to experience these feelings and emotions and the trips. And, there's a chance that they could also be on it too. Like, everyone that's kind of coming into it is random. And, there's a reason why each person is being chosen, but I'm planning on doing this for a while.
I'm like, it's so inspiring to me. You can imagine I've probably recorded somewhere in the area of 700 episodes at this point on this show. And all of them are between, let's say, 30 minutes and 60 minutes. None of them have the depth of a 4 to 5 hour round of golf. You think about this, like I've played thousands of rounds of golf in my life. You show up to the Muni course as a single, you get paired with maybe another single or threesome or whatever to round out a foursome. Like, you could play that entire round heads down, not talk to anybody, not be interested. That just isn't me. Like, I got the gift of gab. So like, if my discomfort leads me to owning a conversation. And you can imagine that being kind of a professional interviewer at this point, like, that was not my goal with this. Like, that was totally not my goal of being a content creator and like building a podcast and doing this professionally as an interviewer. And when I get to do it on the course, I'm not doing it for the camera, not doing it for the microphone. And so the quality of that conversation, the ability to go through like all of these different pillars of somebody's life, you touch on family, you touch on the job, you touch on the ambitions, you touch on the bad stuff. Like, you just get this like huge amount of time. And then like, how many times you shake hand, hat off, you're on the 18th hole, everybody's done, you exchange phone numbers and you continue the conversation. And now like, I'm playing around with you again, but like we played randomly before, but now intentionally today. And like, this big metaphor of just like this journey, the game that has just been, the way that I see what you have done is just like completely flip the story on its head. Like, you are taking what happens on that random uni pair up and you're exploiting it for everybody else to just enjoy. It's so relatable to me. I'm so happy you brought up like Netflix level content, because the content that's being created right now is fame jacking. It's taking super famous faces only to sell views.
Yeah.
I think you're going to outperform that. And like, I see your show ultimately, if that's your goal, being on some type of large streaming platform, not just like independent on YouTube, because the people are going to want it. Like, bro, I'm going to want it. Like, I don't want to be there bombarded with advertisement on YouTube channel. Like, I want to be able to see someone's unbarriered story. I want to see like what you do with this gentleman and his young son. Like, that episode with me, I have a 5-year-old too, bro. Like that, so does Rob, but like, we're just real men with real kids, with real families, with real life, real experience. And I don't really relate to a professional. I just don't.
Dude, anybody could just lose their wife or their spouse, you know what I mean? And that's like the sad part about it. It's like, this guy does not deserve like what he's had to go through. It's tough. And so there's just a lot of perspective, dude, but he's using golf to heal, dude. This guy, like, we talk on the phone a lot, and you know what I mean? It's the least I could do for him is to try to use my platform to help somebody else out, right? And not do it in like a weird gimmicky like way, but do it in a way that actually is intentional and it is curated. And that's everything that I'm doing these days. Like, from, the hats to the reels to the media projects and everything else that's coming. I mean, we have 3 more episodes planned between now and July 4th. And so the second one is going to be with Lab Golf. I can't give out too many details, so it's very cool. The fourth episode is, or I'm sorry, it's 1, 2 is Myrtle Beach, 3 is in Eugene. Number 4 is going to be in Saratoga over July 4th weekend. And I've got somebody at the New York State Golf Association that I got randomly connected with through a buddy who I made through a friend that I met at a concert.
Like so randomly awesome.
That is,
Yes,
dude, the
dude. How
string
it
theory
goes.
there is insane. But
Oh,
essentially, it
that's
went from this
awesome.
random guy to show to a friend of his to then hanging out one night to when I started my page. He's like, I have a buddy who's a drone operator who has this page, which was like really awesome page. And then he followed me, and that was early on. And then he's friends with this guy at the New York State Golf Association, and this guy's also a huge fan of this band. I can't say it, but they like sell out Madison Square Garden, and they're also participating in the episode. So what's even funnier is I have string theory with this band because I was at a festival with my solar trailer in 2019, and I met the band before they became famous. And now we're back again, right? And so we're getting to do something really cool with them. It's going back to Lake George, that area of New York, New Jersey. So I would go up there every summer with my parents, and specifically during 4th of July, it was actually the first place I ever picked up a golf club was in Glen Falls. I played mini putt and I made a hole in one the first time I ever picked up a golf club. So
I
pretty
mean,
cool, man. Like, so it's
you
like,
can't invent that.
dude, this is literally, dude, I feel like Slumdog Millionaire these days because it's like everything that's happened in my life is coming back into the picture. And I killed this dream at one point in my life. And now it's like, I thought I killed it. Right. And now I'm realizing I'm getting another crack at it. But this time it's so much more cooler than me just like, oh, I want to be a professional golfer and win golf tournaments, and date hot blondes and fly on private jets. Right.
The universe,
That still could happen, by the way.
It could, it might. In some real case, you might lose a little bit of the authenticity. Like, it's my assumption that you're probably on a one-to-one daily conversation basis with the guys that you're planning on these trips. Like that, you can't manufacture that. It's not.
No.
It's totally authentic.
It is, and that's the point, man. We're just trying to capture the human experience through golf because every little piece of golf media is gimmicky and trying to sell you something, and we really just want to tell stories, man, and tell the stories in golf that nobody's really focusing on. And so we have other ideas for a media project, dude. We've had people offer us, money to fund the studio and take on more stuff. So we're kind of just going through our options and seeing what's available. But over the last year, my network has certainly expanded. And so there's people that I can go to. And if I needed, money to start this and I really wanted to get into it and bite the bullet and really just get super deep into it, I could make it happen. So stewing on that right now, I think once that first cut comes back, and people get to see that full first episode, it's going to be, I'll put it like this. I said this to Eric Lang the other day when we were having breakfast. I know for a fact that at some point in the future, I will miss how simple this time of my life was. As crazy as it feels, I'm going to miss the simplicity of it because, things are emotion now that can't be undone. And I have so much obsession and passion behind this idea that I'm just going to see it through to, I don't really have a plan either what it's supposed to be, but I know that it's going to be something, and I know that it's going to leave its mark on golf in the right way. And that's what we're going for. Just time in the saddle, dude. Literally just time in the saddle and it will happen. If I keep on playing golf every day and going to cool places and meeting cool people and, doing my thing, it's, magnet type energy. Every other business I've ever been a part of, I was like pushing a product on other people. Now people are coming to me. Like since we've been on here, I've sold like 4 hats.
It's amazing, right?
You know what I mean?
See the notification from
It's
Shopify.
amazing. No, it's incredible. And, it's just, it's a major blessing, dude. But that's why I'm not going to forget where I came from or like the intentions of what I'm doing. I mean, I have humble beginnings. My dad's a roofer. My mom's a dental hygienist and I'm a felon, dude. So I'm very much a real person. And, if I can go out and make something happen, I know somebody else can. Like we said earlier, just get into sales, go push a product, right? There's a lot of opportunities still left in the world, even though people act like everything is just the sky is falling.
Well, as we round third base here, or maybe approach the 18th hole.
Yeah.
I would be remiss not to say that you are my quintessential guest for Forward to Extraordinary. It's the guys and gals that have the world stacked up against them. The ones that maybe lost their way, but ultimately like have this just general will And like, I don't think you really know what your calling is just yet. You're just pulled. It's more on being pulled in a direction. The universe is attracting me to this thing. That's a really special moment. And I think that there's lots of people out there that are maybe fighting against what the universe really wants from them. And so your story is inspiring, man. And I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, man. I'll kind of leave it on this. My last business, every single day was a new set of complex problems that I had to solve. And it was uphill push, sleepless nights, headaches, issue after issue after issue after issue. It's like, obviously, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And then when I got into golf, it's been the easiest rise. It's essentially built itself. I've just maintained my passion and my consistency, and brick by brick, as they say, right?
Brick by brick, day by day, one foot in front of the other. It's all you got to do. Just call the next shot, not all the shots.
That's it.
That's it,
And
man.
and dude, then like literally, that's golf. When you
Isn't
stop
it
trying to
so?
shoot a score and you try to shoot shots and hit shots, that's when you start playing your best golf. Like seriously.
So true.
Um, you know, and
Get out of your head.
and that's what I'm doing right now. It's like, just what's next, right? Okay, let me get rid of this. Let me knock this out. Okay, moving on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But just, I have severe ADHD. It's hard for me to keep track of things. That's why I have Rob. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just in
He's
go
great at that.
mode.
He's real good at that, amongst the many other things.
Yeah.
Well, Lyle, it's absolutely been a pleasure, man. I
Yeah,
want to
man.
get you back to. I know you're headed off to the range, so I don't want to stand in front of you and swing some clubs.
Got some new
But
wedges I need to
I
try
hear,
out.
I hear, and like quietly, you name dropped that you played with one of the guys from Rufus. I watched those guys when they were playing to a big audience of 10 people at La Bar down in Brookfield Place in Manhattan. And
Really?
I secretly hope that that's who you're talking about. But
Yeah, that is who I'm talking about.
well,
And
there you go, bro. I'm a
I've
mega fan
been
from day
getting
one with them.
it was interesting because one little quick sidebar, but their whole thing started popping off in 2016.
I remember it very well.
Same thing with Eric Lang, and then my life started to end in 2016.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, I've been around these people this year that started like 10 years ago, and so I feel like the kind of like now it's God, the universe, whatever people want to call it. It's on the 10-year anniversary of the worst day of my life, I was at this event in Arizona called Golf Camp. And I was talking to this guy who had a vintage shop there. And I immediately saw this bag that he had. It was like a seafoam green bag. And on the pocket, it was a Pinghoofer. It said Phoenix Christian. And, for me, that meant a lot. It's like, I rose from the ashes in the last 10 years. And like it spoke to me. And then I also bought this Titleist hat from him. And then afterwards, I found out that he's like a Christian, because I am too. And I look at the back of the hat. I didn't even realize it, but there's embroidered in the back of it. It said, "What is next?" It's like, wow. Here I am. It was like almost like I was like supposed to find that there. And even that night before I left, I was like messaging Eric Lang, and all these different things were happening. It's like, I just can't believe how far we've come. But like I said, just maintain the passion and the consistency, and it seems like anything is really possible.
And isn't the truth, man. I wish you a long walk, not spoiled by a little white ball.
Yes. I
Bro, it's
appreciate you,
been a
man.
pleasure. And I wish you forward to extraordinary.
Yeah.